Well, for this upcoming July 4th, 2015, let's remember what the Revolutionary War was about. Actually, I got some lineage that goes all the way back to the Revolutionary War and prior, and direct lineage that fought in the Revolutionary War in South Carolina, the Revolutionary War, and also the Civil War too. But the one thing that we got to remember is this main principle, and it was basically join or die. It was a good thing, I guess, in a way that the North did win. Not only slavery issue was totally resolved, but the other thing, and I'm talking about the Revolutionary War, because this principle of being unified and unified against our enemies is very important. Because I can tell you, a lot of the fans of division are being fanned, flames of division are being fanned by the Russians and the Chinese, and especially, I'd even say, Vlad himself. If you look through some of the psyop operations through Russia today, whether you want to believe it or not. Hey, I'm against all the bullshit too, okay? But I also realize, united we stand, divided we fall. And that was one of the major principles in the Revolutionary War, 1776. Now, the signers of the Declaration of Independence, actually what happened to them, I just want to have that as a subject of this video, because of the 56 men who signed the Declaration of Independence, 5 of the signers were captured by the British as traitors and were tortured and later died. It was not a joke. In other words, these are people that had some money. They could have kissed up to the British crown, but nope, they said, to hell with you. You know, you never see a politician in this day and age, except for maybe Trump. I have to say that. You know, he's getting some hot water, but then again, hey, at least he's speaking his mind versus the little weasels that come out from a rock and throw stones every once in a while. But some more of the 56 who originally signed the Declaration of Independence, 12 had their homes ransacked and burned. 2 lost their sons serving in the Revolutionary Army, and another 2 sons were captured. 9 of the 56 who signed the Declaration of Independence fought and died from wounds or hardship of the Revolutionary War. They pledged everything, man. Now, actually, I don't know how many greats it goes back. I think it's like 5 great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather. He was actually very young. He was just a young teenager, signed up for the Continental Army, was at Charleston, South Carolina during the siege of Charleston, South Carolina in the Revolutionary War, when the British invaded the colonies. It was the colonies back then. And actually, the grandfather of my great-great-great-grandfather was an officer in the army of General Marion, who was also known as the South Carolina Swamp Fox, because, you know, he used to freaking be tough to freaking find, and he would bushwhack the British at any turn. But, you know, I'm going to tell you the most important thing to remember is united we stand, divided we fall. You know, I'm all for freaking people being proud of whatever their heritage is, you know, as long as you don't go excessive with it. You know, I'm just telling you some of my stuff. You know, everybody's got their own little thing, you know, whatever it is. But I could tell you, though, it's like united we stand, divided we fall. And, you know, part of this stuff of the game of the communist conspiracy of diversity is divided we fall. Because it's all applied in certain different ways to actually create a non-unified United States of America. So anyway, continuing on, 24 of the 56 original Declaration of Independence signers were lawyers and jurists, 11 were merchants, 9 were farmers and large plantation owners. They had money. They were well educated. They signed the Declaration of Independence knowing that everything they had was on the line. How many politicians you see do that today? Virtually none. Virtually none. So actually my lineage that goes from my father's side, that goes back to the Revolutionary War, They fought not in the North. I'm talking 1776 to 1788. You know, it lasted a long time, and there was a lot of hardship. It was a long period of time, and they fought mainly in South Carolina. The battles went on in South Carolina, and the two families that I'm directly related to, they go back to that time. So, you know, a lot of times things aren't that easy. Like Carter Braxton of Virginia, wealthy planter and trader, saw a ship swept away from the seas by the British Navy. He had to sell his home and properties to pay all the debts, and he died penniless and in rags. So he went from a very wealthy person to nothing, the lowest pauper. That's what happened to a lot of these people. Not all of them, but, you know, that's what happened to a lot of them. You're only hearing about the ones, you know, I mean, even Alexander Hamilton, you know what happened with him later? He died in a duel with Aaron Burr, right? So, I mean, a lot of stuff went on at that time. And, you know, it's a matter of you got to fight the bullshit. I'm actually going to put more videos out, not on just the Revolutionary War, but also, I'll call it the War of Northern Aggression in some ways, because it was that way. Because I got to set the record straight on some of this junk, and I don't give a damn if it's politically incorrect or not. But, you know, while I'm saying I got lineage going back to, you know, the Revolutionary War, is that a big deal? I can tell you one thing, the way I look at it, hey, they're revolutionaries. You know what that means? The hell with the bullshit. That's what it means. It's not like something, I'm not going to freaking stand on it like it's monarchy. To me, it means the hell with the bullshit. The stuff the colonists were revolting over back then, they would have revolted a long time ago over here in the present United States of America. And, you know, that's partly why I got the hell out of New Jersey, because none of those people freaking want to revolt over nothing. To me, that whole place is getting screwed up, and it's like it's getting screwed up everywhere, but the thing is, I ain't going to support the most screwed up or the screwed up. So, you know, out of the Northeast, because that's where the establishment money has now become. But, you know, if you even go back to even a lot of, you know, I could pull some freaking crap on a lot of things and, you know, lineage and all that kind of garbage. But, you know, when they're freaking trying to divide us up, that's another game that the powers that be are trying to play. You know, this was the flag of South Carolina. Well, it basically looks like, I think it's close to the state flag, or it is a state flag. But basically, this was the flag, or one of the flags that was flown during the Revolutionary War. You know, they can actually freaking take anything there is, and they can even say the British Union Jack is a symbol of hate. You know, getting back to that flag issue I talked about with the Confederate flag, or whatever the hell you want to call it. But I almost look at it as a rebel flag. That's what I look at, is rebel against all the bullshit. That's kind of how I see it. But actually, you know, if you're looking at, it's a lot more than just talk, and it's a lot more than just listening to Alex Jones or just me or anybody. I tell you one thing, you got to fight the bullshit at any level, and, you know, you got to be polite. But then again, when it comes down, and if they're going to stick it to you really bad, you got to fight them. That's what it comes down to, with cannon or buckshot or whatever the hell you got to use. Because the thing is, you know, it comes to a point in time where your life and liberty has got to mean something. And again, I just want to put it to you that there's foreign powers that are deliberately, and also freaking yo-yos that are looking to control the United States of America, are deliberately fanning the flames of division. I don't want to fan the flames of division, because I am 110% pro-USA. I realize the United States is the land of opportunity, and we got diverse populations that come from everywhere, which is cool. That's the way it should be. You know, everybody's got their own individual rights, and even if you want to group people in different ways, you know, if you get right down to the individual, you know, I could be talking about this thing about, hey, I got roots going all the way back to the Revolutionary War and to the colonies, but then again, I got roots going back to Italy. I got my great-grandfather was also, even though he was half Italian, he was the son of an illegitimate son of a Duke of England. He actually was went back there in England at the time. You know, one of my great uncles, he was born in the UK in London, even though he's half Italian. He was Italian. My grandmother was born in Italy, and then went back to the UK. I could say I actually have royal roots, just like Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton, he was actually, I think he's related to one of the Clintons back at the time, was pushing all the taxes on the freaking the revolutionary colonists. I could play all kinds of, actually I got a weird ass background, to tell you the truth. If you really dig into his stuff, man, I don't want to talk about it because there's a lot to it. But I could tell you that the whole principle is screw the bullshit, and that's really what the Revolutionary War was about. Some of the stuff that's going on today, I don't understand why people are putting up with it. I don't put up with nothing. But, I felt like when I was up north, I felt like an extreme radical compared to everybody else, so I went south. I said, to hell with it. I'm actually more radical than the freaking most of the Southerners down here, even though I'm from Jersey, whatever the hell is near New York City. But, the thing is, it comes to a time when you really got to put everything on the line, and that's really what the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence did. And that's why we're really celebrating our freedoms today. Actually, I'm going to put some more out about this thing with the, now I'm talking about the Revolutionary War, but then again, I'll say, I got roots going back to the Civil War, or the war between the states, or the War of Northern Aggression. But, I could tell you one thing. That label, the War of Northern Aggression, actually sticks because you look at what was done to the South during the Reconstruction period. I mean, it really freaking takes the mask of hypocrisy off the North really good. You know what I mean? And I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on some of the stuff that went on back then because it was a total mixed bag. Because I want all Americans that have been in this country for a long period of time to unite against the garbage. United we stand, divided we fall. But, hey, we could be from a little bit different areas, a little bit different cultures, but, the past is the past, and the future is the future. And I can tell you some of the stuff already that's in place already right now. Nobody in their right mind back during the Revolutionary War would have put up with it. All the loyalists that were loyal to the British back then, if they knew the kind of crap that's coming on today, they would have been 110% on the side of the colonists fighting against the crown. And that's basically what we got going now, because we got the supplanted crown in Washington, D.C. It's a bunch of bullshit. And it seems like no matter who you elect, they can't be strong enough to fight him, or you got devious little serpents with sheep's masks on that are actually telling us a lot of garbage, these politicians, and blowing smoke up your ass. So, anyway, probably a lot of the things that we need to really think about is tactics. Because during the battles with the British by the colonists in South Carolina, it was General Marion, also known as the Swamp Fox. He used a lot of tactics. And, tactics is everything. Because direct frontal assault always ain't going to get the job done. And actually, sometimes it's the dumbest thing in the world to do. You want to actually be shrewd. You want to actually outsmart them and be like a fox. And that was one of my great-great-great-great-grandfathers who was actually an officer in that army. And also one of my great-great-great-grandfathers was... he was at the siege by the British of Charleston, South Carolina during the Revolutionary War. So, anyway, this would be General Marion at that time. So, anyway, want to bring this out because, the thing is, it's not for giddy minds. It calls for action. But then again, you got to remember, it calls for the right kind of action, not just any kind of action. And the thing is, stand your ground. I can tell you 99.9% of the time politicians are weasels and they will not stand their ground. You just got to freaking call them up and bitch at them, and they're all worried about their career, and that's it. If they don't want to hear what I got to say, or whatever, somebody don't want to hear what I say to hell with it. You know what? I'll still fight them on different grounds, no matter which way I can. And that's the way it's going to be. But, I like to play in the shrewd card, too, because I'll tell you, the big deal that's going on right now with America, and I got to get it right back to number one here, is divided we fall. united we stand. Diversity is good, and because I put it this way: everybody's an individual. If you want to get down and really practicing diversity, everybody's an individual. When I talk, maybe I got things in common with people from the South, but then I got people with things in common from Italy too. So what the hell? I got things in common from people from near New York, New Jersey, New York City, because I was raised up there. I wouldn't really, everybody's got little bits and pieces of everything. Nobody's exactly the same, right? So, if you really want to freaking listen to these Karl Marx freaking yo-yos freaking trying to divide us up like the Russians are doing through Russia today, and, they're one of the ones that are actually fanning the secession of, Texas from the USA. I'm not for all that stuff. You know what I mean? Actually, if I had my way back in this, even if I was in the South, I realized that, if they seceded from the Union, I think that was a bad thing, even back then, when they had the Civil War and all that. But, I realized that was a war about money. Now, I'm talking about the Revolutionary War, but, it was a Revolutionary War in South Carolina. But everything's about money. And the money bastards always got these shrewd ways to set different groups upon each other, and therefore, that's how they control you. Remember this snake that's caught up. It ain't going to work. If it's going to be, don't tread on us, we got to be the united snake fighting against the power. Not just by division of areas of country, where like it says New England, New York, New Jersey, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Virginia, and North Carolina and South Carolina. I'm talking about it's got to be division of all kinds of people, you name them. And I'm talking about our country, the United States of America, which has the greatest freedoms and the best freaking laws and the best protection of individual rights that is embodied in the government. Even though we supposedly give the government that power, they don't freaking grant us any power. We grant them the power. But the thing is, we got to remember that the Marxists and even the foreign powers are looking to divide us up. So, I'm trying to actually tell you some stuff here that is a little common sense, because, somebody's going to disagree with what I just say, whatever, fine, you disagree with it, but then you agree with it, fine, you agree with it. I don't care whatever it is. I'm just telling you exactly how it is, and we got to stick together, because when it's don't tread on us, we have to join together or die. That's exactly what it's about. And I'm going to be putting more out about how these yo-yos are trying to fan the flames of division. But in the meantime, just remember that the Revolutionary War, and actually just the Revolutionary War with the flag of South Carolina, was fought by people not only that were poor, but also people that had means, and they risked everything. They didn't just they could have had everything intact and not risked anything except maybe a small little fee or percentage on the top. Nope, they said, the hell with you. The hell with you. How many of these professional office flakes would do that today? Virtually none of them. None of them. That's why they make my stomach turn. They just kiss up to the bullshit. Anyway, if we had a freaking Revolutionary War today, it would probably be against the freaking IRS or something. That's what it would be. That's what it would be. So anyway, time to celebrate our 4th of July and stay united, and not just think about celebrating our diversity, but also celebrating our unification in our principles, even though we are a very diverse people, and we will fight for those principles.